side, ref!
Welcome back to another episode of In From The Side here on the Real Rugby channel. I'm back with my co-host, the tight head to my loose head, Matthew Rhodes. Matt, good to see you, bud.
How's it, bud?
Lekker.
Yeah, you well?
We're having awesome weather here in the UK, so it's international season is creeping up, and I've been enjoying the Bulls playing good rugby. So all's well, mate.
All the South African teams playing really well. I think we 4 from 4 in the weekend, so that was really good. But the weather is sensational at the moment. You can all tell we're in shorts and not jumpers for a change, and the braai season has begun. We had a braai yesterday.
It has begun.
We've got braais happening this week. It is in full force. So when the braais are out, the rugby's out as well. Usually.
Yeah.
So it's a good time of the year.
Absolutely. Great time of the year, and we've been having a lot of fun on the channel the last couple of weeks. We've been doing this series called the Mount Rushmore of rugby players, where we go through every single position in a rugby team, and we each pick our 4 greatest players in each position. And we've done fullback, we've done both wings, I've done outside centre. I'm proud to say, I did confirm with Matt, he's now converted. He now agrees that Dani Carve is the greatest centre, outside centre ever.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, the overwhelming support behind that notion was justified in the comments. So thanks to all of you guys who made a comment after our last video. I think we'd had 500 views and 60 comments by the time our first hour went down, but a couple of thousand views so far. And resoundingly, everyone is agreeing with you and saying Dani Carve is the best. There was not too many people who pushed back on that statement. Fair play to a few of the boys as well, making comments and having a bit of banter. Frank O'Keefe, fair play to you, boy. Not Ben. He's had a good chat, one or two others. So, we welcome it. We enjoy the banter, keep it coming. But a really good show, I think, last time. And today should be good too.
Yeah, it should be good. We're continuing down the back line, and we are selecting our greatest inside centres, or second 5/8s, as they say in New Zealand. This was a tricky one. There's some really good players over the years. And the same thing, like we spoke about it last week, a lot of centres played both inside and outside. So then it's really, we had to do a lot of proper research to really distinguish between who were known mostly as inside centres as opposed to outside centres. I've got a bit of an outside pick on my Mount Rushmore, but we'll get to it.
I always have an outside pick, and that's because I welcome the banter, so keep it coming. But let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
The first pick that I have, and I'll talk to him very briefly, was you talked to Philippe Silla. The best thing to come out of France since Ménage à Trois, Philippe Silla. The lad played exceptional, and I was maybe not as forthcoming with the lauded and applaudits rather last week maybe than I should be. I've gone since and watched the videos and gone, maybe I missed the trick there. But the first person on my Mount Rushmore is actually someone who ended up replacing him when he came over to play in Europe, and that's Timmy Horan.
Okay, nice one.
So we had a brief moment before the show kicked off. You threw out your 4 names of who you think I'm going to be picking today. Again, we don't look at each other's list. We do our independent research, and then we come here and we debate it. But you thought that I'd be picking Timmy, and rightly so. Tim Horan is the first person on my list, and for all the right reasons. 80 caps for Australia, 140 points, and 40 tries. 40 tries for anyone is outstanding, but to do so at centre is a thing of beauty. So it's 0.3 per game. I love Timmy Horan when he played. He was immense. Obviously, as a tactician, defensively, it was outstanding. And then he also was an exponent of bringing in the second sort of line, sort of passing deep behind the gain line and getting people into space. So I loved Timmy when he played. I still love him today as a pundit. So he's number 1 on my list.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I did call it. I did think you'd go with Tim Horan because we're both fans, and unsurprisingly, he's on my Mount Rushmore. I've made the statement in the past often. People that know me, whenever we do these sort of fantasy teams, I always said that's my dream centre pairing. Tim Horan, Dani Carve. If you can put those two next to each other, they will be unplayable.
Yeah.
I think Tim Horan. That's my personal opinion. People will disagree with me, but I personally think Tim Horan's the greatest inside centre that's ever played the game.
Yeah.
And if there was a hierarchy on this Mount Rushmore, he would, for me, would be top of the pile.
Yeah.
A beautiful player, a classic inside centre. He's not one of these big guys that just carries the ball. He was a smaller guy, so you had to use his skills and his eye for a gap to actually put players outside of him away. But that combo with Jason Little is very well known. I mean, they made a big impression on us. South Africa toured Australia in 1993, and they just tore us to shreds. Scored a lot of tries, made a lot of tries. They were really, really good. And then later on, when Little got injured, his combo with Dan Herbert was next level. And I speak about this memory a lot, Matt, but that semi-final against the Springboks in 99, he had a stomach bug. Like, he was really sick the week leading up to that semi-final. And he played probably the best game he's ever played. Like he was the difference between Australia winning and losing that game, because he put them, with his line breaks, he put them into field position for Matt Burke to kick the goals and put pressure on the Springboks. So, no, I can talk about Tim Horan the whole day. Like, he's just a sublime player and one of the all-time greats.
But you mentioned it. So Jason Little, who he played with first, I think he remarked in around 2000. When Tim and I played together, we were the best centre partnership in the world. When Daniel Herbert and Tim played together, they were the best centre partnership in the world. No. The common denominator is not me.
Exactly, yeah.
So, 2 World Cups, 1991 and 99. I think he set the template for the modern centre with a perfect balance of flair, defensive grit, tactical kicking, and what you said, vision.
Yeah, and his stepping with both feet. Like, I remember that 91 World Cup, I think he scored a brace against Argentina, where he would just step left, right, and no one could touch him. He was really unplayable. Made a big impression against South Africa. Always played well against us.
Yeah.
I think in 99 he covered for Larkham at fly-off and was man of the match in the Tri-Nations where we played at Brisbane. I loved him. Tim Horan's top of the list for me.
Top of the list, Dame player of the tournament in the 1999 Rugby World Cup.
And well deserved.
He made his final appearance in the green and gold in 2000 against Argentina in Brisbane. And then, as I say, he went to go and join Saracens, and he replaced Philippe Sela.
Philippe Sela.
Yeah.
Not a bad replacement if you leave and you get Tim Horan to replace you.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
Sweet.
cool.
So that's my
one
top.
From one.
One from one. Who did you go with next?
Next one's also an obvious one for me. I think a lot of people, especially your mates down in New Zealand, would probably argue my point on Horan and say, no, this guy is the greatest inside centre of all time. You picked Conrad Smith last week. I'm picking his inside centre buddy. Has to be Nonu. Sublime player. It's going to be interesting to see if you pick Geordie Barrett, Matt, because you picked Geordie in your All Black team and you got a lot of stick. But
I did. I got so much stick, actually, but it's cool.
It's Nonu for me. You know what? He came onto the scene, burst onto the scene in 2003 as a 21-year-old. Played outside centre, and he was very much a crash ball type of big physical player. Didn't really pass. And then he was in and out of the All Black side. I mean, they played with Aaron Major, Luke McAllister. There were a lot of guys that played inside centre. And then around, if I remember correctly, it was around 2007, 2008, he really came back and cemented it. I mean, he came back a more polished player. He had a skill set that he didn't have before. So he really, he's not just a freak that has got this natural talent. He went away and worked on the shortcomings in his game, and he had a beautiful passing game. He could kick if he had to. He wasn't a renowned kicker. Defensively, a rock, an absolute rock. He scored some tries. I've said this about Cullen, I've said this about Habana, but he scored some tries that normal players won't be able to score. And I specifically think of that try he scored in the final in 2015. Broke South African hearts multiple times. He loved scoring against us. I just think he was a brute force at inside centre. New Zealand's produced a lot of inside centres, and we'll get to some of the names on the list. But for me, double World Cup winner, multiple Tri-Nations titles, and he's still playing. He's our age, and he's still playing in the Champions Cup.
Yeah, he's doing well.
It's ridiculous. What a legend. Absolute legend of the game. It was tight between him and Horan, but Nonu had to be up for me.
So he's a very transformational figure. So Nonu, I think, evolved from being a physical battering ram, as you say, to becoming a more complete player. His passing and his kicking evolved, and he became more of a kind of tactician. And as you say, key to New Zealand's 2011-2015 World Cup success. His growth in distribution and kicking made him one of the most dynamic centers ever, I think.
Yeah.
To complement what you're known for, which is just being brute force and running through people and running through brick walls, to then add some silky skills. For me, I did have Scott Gibbs in my selection, and I was looking at Scotty Gibbs because if anyone who's been watching the show knows how much I love Scott Gibbs and the impression he made on me as a youngster. Legend player. And, he, for me, for British and Irish Lions and for Wales, 53 caps, 50 points, 10 tries, 5 caps for the British and Irish Lions, 5 points, only 1 try there. But the NRL stuff that he did as well at St. Helens in Wales, 50 caps. Like, for me, I hold him in such high stead. But when you compare him to Nonu, 103 caps, 155 points, 32 tries, 0.31, a try every 3 games.
Yeah.
I had to include him.
Yeah.
So even though I went Geordie Barrett in my all-time New Zealand pro era team, because I think Geordie's amazing and he's got outstanding skills.
Not according to Stephen Donald.
But like in a more well-rounded, in my opinion at least.
No, he's a great player.
He's a great player. But for out-and-out inside centre, I had to have him in my team. So I've also gone...
So we're 2 for 2.
2 for 2. I've
like
also gone So,
But it's nice. It sort of tells me. I'd love to hear from the folks out there. But I think on those 2 names, I don't think anyone will argue. I think those are the 2 out of the 4 that we'll pick. Those 2, 9 out of 10 people will agree with.
Nonu's win ratio is unbelievable. It's remarkable. He's never lost a single World Cup game.
That is wow. Okay, that is.
And in
scary.
22 Bledisloe Cup appearances, he won 20 of them. So it's like
unbelievable.
And again, you look at the era and the team that he played in, like they were dominant for such a.
That was a golden age.
It was a golden age for Kiwi rugby.
Absolutely.
But I think the evolution that he went through as a transformational player of just being that kind of battering ram to being someone who could play a great link game as well, for me was outstanding. And, as I said, 32 tries at centre. If you look, Timmy Horan, 40 tries, 32 tries is decent as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. 2 from 2. I didn't think he'd go Nonu.
I had Scotty Gibbs. I had him in there.
These things aren't always about stats, eh?
But
my last 2 is definitely not about stats.
Penciled him in, obviously. But then when I looked at the stats, right? When I looked at what Scott Gibbs did, sure, 1997 player of the series for the British and Irish Lions, fierce tackle, powerful runner, the iconic 1999 try against England. He was just so inspirational for me. But I talked about him, and then you look comparatively. 2 World Cups.
No, it's yeah. You can't argue with what Nonu
again, we talk about World Cups as being the highest standard.
That's the barometer.
That's the barometer.
What you measure yourself against.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, whether it was because he went into doing NRL, I don't know if he would have won a World Cup, but 50 caps, exactly, 50 caps. So I had to go with my head over my heart. Much to the surprise of my wife when we were having this conversation earlier today, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was like...
Does she actually know who Scott Gibbs is?
Yeah, because I've talked about him before, and we've had that, and I said, no, I'm going Mount Rushmore.
It's like my wife doesn't know that much about rugby, but she knows I love Donny Carve. It's like she knows, he's your Scott Gibbs. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. 2 from 2.
Nice.
Who's the third face on your Mount Rushmore?
So, again, this person, you look at how we pick, and all of this is subjective. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of stick always because we leave out one person and haven't picked this person, or, are we mad to consider this person that's in our 4? This is obviously the people that had, or the lads that had the most impact on me from that inside centre position, personally. And let me know, when you disagree or agree. But for me, I couldn't look much further than Jean de Villiers. So Jean de Villiers, for me, South Africa, obviously, Springbok, legend, 109 caps, 135 points, 27 tries, 0.25 per game, so 1 in every 4. He's South Africa's most capped centre, right? And when you consider some of the names that South Africa have produced at inside centre. You got Devet Barry, Peter Muller, Wynand Olafia, Manikis Roux, Jan Serfontein, Andre Esterhazen, Henny LaRue, and Brendan Fenter, all like outstanding in their own right. Your man stands head and shoulders above them, in my opinion. We'll debate, I'm sure.
I think in the pro era, definitely is head and shoulders. Well, between him and Damien, right?
Sure, and again, I've left a particular spot to speak about Damien myself.
Okay.
But for me, Jean de Villiers, again, 37 tests as captain. So South Africa's most capped centre, phenomenal leader, and a strategist. Like, he read the game so well, epitomized by the amount of like intercept tries that he would like get as well. Renowned for his game reading. Defensively, he was strong, and he had silky skills. Started off, I think, on the wing, and then came inside.
Yeah.
And despite some injuries as well, he was consistent. He delivered. And at the highest level, 66% win ratio. It's like, in a time where he was competing against those like All Black teams that we've discussed. For me, Jean de Villiers was a very complete footballer. And I just loved him playing at inside centre. So, as I say, couldn't leave him off my mountain. So, Jean, you're up there, boy.
Yeah, well, I hope he watches the show. Well done, John. He is a legend, absolute legend of the game. And
Yeah.
I loved him, and I can't fault you for picking him. Most capped Springbok, as you said.
At centre.
And that combo with Jacques Fourie. I mean, I remember there was a 2005, we lost badly to Australia. And that was a good Springbok side. And David Barry and Marius Hubert, they were the centres. And there was like a public cry to Jake White, can you please just pick Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie? And he picked them, and we played the Aussies at Ellis Park, and they played a blinder. Like, Jean put Jacques in space, and they read the game. I think he scored an intercept try himself. So, and that was the start of a pretty much a decade of them dominating that centre combination. So
What a centre pairing. I mean,
no, they were great.
you talk about, so Timmy Horan, Daniel Herbert, Jason Little, those centre pairings were like outstanding. And we always look for partnerships. We've talked on all of our previous shows that we've done. We like a centre pairing, right?
Yeah.
And I picked Jacques in my
No, you did.
team.
And he deserves it. He
Yeah.
deserves to be up there.
Jacques, in his own right, deserves to be up there. But, again, for what he did for the Springboks, but also what he was as a player, he was silky, like, with his skill set was unbelievable. Like, he was super quick, again, played on the wing, coming in at centre, strong, good defensively, although Jacques, I think a lot of the time, ran that defensive line.
Yeah, he was the organizer. But
was the organizer.
Jean was solid in defence.
Yeah. And then that tactical nous and leadership, you don't lead out the Springboks 37 times if you're an average player.
No, not at all. No, and he deserves it. It was very tough for me not to pick him. He's not on my Mount Rushmore.
Fair.
But it was really difficult to pick him. I mean, South Africa's produced some really good inside centres, and I'll get to some of the folks on the name. Jean was one of them. I had to go with another South African, and I went old school. You mentioned his name, and I'm sure a lot of folks out there would say, oh, but he played outside centre. Well, I had to go with Manikis Roux.
Okay.
When you talk about legends, and like if you have to carve a guy's face on the side of a mountain, there's no bigger legend than Manikis Roux. Like, songs have been written about this guy. There's books. I've got books about him. He's one of the greatest Springboks of all time. Explosive in attack. So quick. Now, for the folks that's going to criticize me and say, but he played outside centre, it's much of a muchness. He played 9 games at inside, 12 at outside.
He did.
And the rest he played on the wing.
He started off at wing, then came inside, then went outside.
So I looked at it in totality. Like, who did I pick last week and who's left this week? I had to make space for him, but I couldn't find space for him at outside centre. So I thought, I'm going to stick him in here. And I also thought, you know what, as a fantasy combo, wouldn't it be great to see him and Gerber next to each other? Like, that would have been magic. But I'll show some tries in black and white in the 60s when Manikis played. He scored one of the greatest Springbok tries of all time against the British Lions in Bloemfontein in 1962. Dude, it's a thing of beauty. I can watch that try all day. It's one of my favourite tries. So the footage that I've seen, the books that I've read, the stories that my dad told him, like famously, Griquas won the Currie Cup in 1970 and they beat a very, very strong Northern Transvaal side, and Manikis was in that Griquas team with Piet Versaghi and these guys. And for me, was just one of these legendary old Springboks that you just heard stories about. I could not pick him. As good as Jean was, and I think Manikis only played about 30 odd tests, but obviously in those days you only played like 4 tests a year every other year. So he did play for 11 seasons for the Springboks. I think together with guys in the 60s like Frick de Pre and John Gainsford, these guys will go down as legends of Springbok rugby.
Absolutely.
So I had to make space for Manikis. I'm going to stop rambling on about him. But I had to make space for him on my Mount Rushmore.
27 caps, 30 points, 6 tries. As you say, played left wing, inside centre 9 times, and then outside centre 12. Like, at the end of the day, a fair call. And we talk about it often. I just said this before. It's all subjective, but what's important to you, and this is your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And these are your heroes that you're holding in high regard.
Yeah, no, it was a superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice, bro. Very cool.
Okay.
Final picking. I think I've gone a bit left field here. Who'd you go with?
Mine's also, but I would say left field, but I think like rugby historians will agree with this one. And I think a lot of folks in the Northern Hemisphere will like this one. People often talk about Brian O'Driscoll being the greatest Irish centre. I don't even think he's the greatest centre Ireland's ever produced. I think Mike Gibson is.
Yeah.
And Mike Gibson is on my Mount Rushmore. He played fly-off and inside centre for Ireland. British and Irish Lions legend. Played in the 60s and the 70s. Tremendous flair. An eye for a gap. He was really, really quick. Not a big guy, but in those days, these guys weren't professional athletes. But Mike Gibson, like Manikis, there's just the lore and the myth around him. If you talk to anyone, if you talk to my mate Tim that lives in Georgia, he'll tell you Mike Gibson's the greatest centre of all time that's played for Ireland. So again, he did magic things for the Lions, scored some great tries and played great rugby for the Barbarians.
Yeah.
Specifically in that game in 1973 against the All Blacks, which is famous for a couple of other tries, but for me, again, there's a couple of videos here that I've watched multiple times, and it shows highlights from the 60s and 70s, and Gibson features so frequently. Like, he was a phenomenal player, great eye for the gap, and he made the players outside of him look very, very good.
Yeah, he was a pioneer and a legend. Like, Ireland's, arguably Ireland's finest centre of his particular era. Versatile, tactically brilliant. And as you say, he was a key part of that Lions historic 1970 win over New Zealand.
Yeah.
So, again, he was part of my considerations and people that I had. There were many, like, as we get to the final pick, it's always hard. For me, there were a couple of people that just missed my cut. Will Greenwood was up there.
Yeah.
So, Will Greenwood, England, 55 caps, 155 points, 31 tries. Right, that's 0.54 per game. It's like 1 every 2 games. Elegant and a cerebral centre, like he was a thinking man. You can see the way that he does his punditry now. Afterwards, his takes on the games, his viewpoints, like they're all well thought out, well constructed, and that's how he played the game. So I really liked the way that he played. For me, again, my Springbok heartstrings were being pulled because I wanted Francois Steyn on my list of players. South Africa, he played 78 times, 168 points, scored 11 tries, big boot, versatile, obviously played fly half and fullback. I think he played wing once or twice as well.
Yeah, made his debut at wing.
Yeah, Scotty Gibbs was up there. As I say, he was in, and then I put Nonu in. I actually had Brian Lima at one stage as well, the chiropractor. 64 appearances for Samoa, 140 points, 29 tries. That's like unbelievable.
Decent.
I think, and he's an IRB Hall of Famer as well, Samoan's top scorer. And then, it was tough because I had Damien the Islander. Before the show, you and I were talking about who you thought I was going to pick. You thought I was going to go Damien because I hold him in such high regard. 2 World Cups, 89 appearances for the Bokke, 65 points, 13 tries, hard hitting. He's a defensive wall, strong ball carrier, as we know. And he's been key in South Africa's 2, World Cup tries, 2019 and 2023. And I think he's undersung and not given enough credit, in my opinion. Like he's
absolutely
his passing capability is off the Richter.
No.
And so I had him there, and then I was looking at Bundy Aki. For Ireland, 65 points, 65 caps, 95 points, 18 tries. World Rugby Player of the Year nominee 2023. He's powerful, complete. He's a complete inside centre. Key to Ireland Six Nations and Grand Slam successes. He also stood up in the 2023 World Cup as well. So I had all these, for my last pick, it's really hard, gents, or anyone else watching, ladies and gents. Will Greenwood, Francois Steyn, Scotty Gibbs, Brian Lima, Bandere Aki, Damien Delander. Who do I go with? And instead, I went with someone who I always thought was electric when he was on the field. He played an outstanding game. He was versatile. And I just loved it every time he had the ball in his hands. And that's Matty Giteau.
I had a sneaking suspicion you might go with Matt Giteau.
So Matty Giteau, 103 caps for Australia, 698 points, 30 tries at 0.29 per game. If you look, Nonu, 103 caps. Matty Giteau, 103 caps. Nonu, 32 tries. Giteau, 30 tries. But obviously, 698 points, a lot of that coming off the boot. Still, 30 tries at international level is off the Richter good. I personally think he's one of the most skillful backs ever produced. Nominee for World Player of the Year 2004 and 2009. He did excel at 10, 12, and 13, but in my opinion...
I think it was a 12.
He was a better at 12.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I totally agree with you.
He was just quick feet, deadly vision. He just was supreme.
Yeah, like Horan, he didn't have size on his side.
No.
So he had to rely on his skills and his stepping and
nimble.
His eye for a gap. And I think what made him more potent was not really his try-scoring ability, but his ability to put guys like Mortlock and Drew Mitchell and these guys outside of him into space and let them score. He was a beautiful, creative player.
Visionary, again.
That, like Cullen, could swerve, at pace. And there were too many times that he broke South African hearts. I remember a try he scored against the Springboks in Durban in 2008 when they beat us there for the first time in 8 years. They beat us in South Africa. The 49-0 drubbing we took in 2006, he scored another great try. He broke our hearts many, many times.
Yeah.
But he was a beautiful player, and he deserves a spot there.
Yeah, again, Matty Giteau was always just one of my firm favourites. Whenever he was on the field, he had silky skills. Again, long-standing servant for the Wallabies, loads of points. I think he's third all-time on the Wallabies list behind Matty Burke and Michael Liner. The boy was class.
That was class.
Yeah.
Absolute legend.
And as I say, as much as he played, we talked about this before, many of these guys on our lists have played inside, outside, sometimes wing, and sure, he played fly-off. But again, the fly-off and the playing outside channel in 13 just goes to and talks to his creativity. And if you've got someone like that, Timmy Horan played at fly-half a couple of times as well. When you've got someone playing at inside centre who can play first receiver, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, unbelievable. And what makes his feat of getting to 100 caps even more impressive, in 2011, Australia lost to Samoa ahead of the World Cup, and he got dropped. And he didn't play for Australia for, I think, 4 years. And he only came back in 2015 and he got his century. He's got his 100th cap at the World Cup. So, very happy
what
for
could
him.
have been?
Yeah, exactly. He could have maybe played 130 tests. You never know. But fantastic player. Yeah, good to have him up there.
I really liked him as a player, so he's up on my mountain. Who do you have, bud?
He was, that's my top four. Horan, Gibson, Nonu, and Maniki Suru. But there's so many players. I'd get on my short list. Another Australian who played really well in the 60s was Jim Boyce.
Okay.
Australian captain as well. Fantastic player. One guy, with two guys from England we didn't talk about. Also one from the amateur era, Will Carling. I went on about Guscott and how great he was, but Guscott was good because he had Carling inside of him, and that combo, we talk about combos a lot. I think Carling's in with a shout. Owen Farrell. I know you're a Faz fan. And I still think I just liked him at centre. I know he's probably a better fly-off, and he'll be part of the discussion next week, but I liked Farrell from... I'm just quickly going to run through my list of notable names, Matt. From France, Yannick Josion.
Yeah.
I think was really good. I'm sure he was on your shortlist as well.
We talked about him a little bit last week, and he's on my shortlist this week as well. I maybe got a bit confused that he was outside when he's actually inside. 73 caps, 103 points, 20 tries. And as you say, the heartbeat of great French team of the 2000s. Great player. And a few of the people that were commenting over the week were appreciative of the fact that we voiced his name.
Yeah, no, Josian was great. And then again in the 60s, Joe Masseau. Again, we just heard legendary tales of this guy. He was sublime, toured South Africa a couple of times. Gordon Darcy was on my list. Sonny Bill Williams, we didn't talk about. Sonny Bill, double World Cup winner.
Sonny Bill.
But yeah, okay, here's something I have to say about Nonu, coming back to Nonu. Because when Sonny Bill came onto the scene, everyone thought this guy's going to rule rugby union. And he couldn't start ahead of Nonu. Nonu was too good.
So Sonny Bill was a great impact player. 53 caps, 75 points, 13 tries. He had a 90.57% win ratio when playing for the All Blacks. But again, it was that team as well.
That team. I could have played inside. that win ratio, to be honest.
In the NRL, 123 caps, 168 points, 42 tries, and a professional boxing record of 9-1, 4 by knockout. He is...
That's only because he never boxed against Buckies.
Imagine.
His record would have been completely different.
He was the offload king, and he was so impactful coming off the bench.
Yeah, he was. He was great.
So a great understudy to Ma at the time. And as an offload king, he would put other people into space and scored so many tries because of the work that he did. Break the gain line, lanky arms above, the kind of passes that he was making, unbelievable. And I think Sonny Bill actually was very impactful in the way that he changed the way the second 5/8 attacked, because he was again getting his arms free and making passes, and he was key to New Zealand's 2015 World Cup success. So he was definitely worthy of consideration.
No, he was on my list. Likewise, another All Black, Walter Little. I think his combination with Frank Bunce again in the 90s made a big impression on us. That was a great centre combo. There was a guy who played for Scotland in the 70s and the 80s, Jim Rennick. If you ever see highlights of him, Matt, he was a fantastic player. He looked like a 60-year-old guy, but he was awesome. Loved Jim Rennick. I had Jean de Villiers, I spoke about him, and then one Springbok. I'm going to give you a chance now, Matt. Need to get this off my chest. One guy that we need to chat a little bit about is John Gainsford.
Yeah.
John Gainsford was never dropped as a Springbok. Like when he played for South Africa, if he wasn't injured, he was the first choice. And he was one of the all-time greats, one of the greatest inside centres, scored some fantastic tries against the All Blacks on that tour in 1965. And any South African rugby historian will tell you he should probably be on this Mount Rushmore. I just didn't... When I grew up, I knew more about Manikis because of what my dad told me and the stuff that he exposed me to as opposed to John Gainsford. And maybe it's because Manikis also played for Northern Transvaal and John Gainsford played for Western Province, but I don't think that really was in the equation. But John Gainsford, legend of the game, he's up there. Another guy, Jochie Janssen. I'm going to have to show this tackle when you watch this video. The best tackle in rugby union was Jochie Janssen on Wayne Cottrell in 1970. At Loftus. Absolute unbelievable tackle. Jamie Roberts, Scott Gibbs.
So Jamie Roberts was again in there, 94 caps, 60 points, 12 tries, 3 caps for the British and Irish Lions. He kind of defined the modern blueprint, I think, for the crash ball at 12. Like there were some others that obviously had come before him, but Jamie was immense, and I love the way that he played. Robbie Henshaw for Ireland, 82 appearances, 50 points, 10 tries. You mentioned Gordon Darcy. Mike Katz as well, I think, is worthy of a mention. He's, versatile. He did play a lot at fullback wing. I think he played once or twice at fly as well. And you mentioned Scotland before, but Sione Tuipulotu as well.
Yeah, maybe in 5 years' time.
That's what I'm saying. 30 caps, 15 points, 3 tries. He's a rapidly rising star and hugely promising, but needs more time to cement historical legacy. But again, Yannick Josian, Sonny Bill Williams, Jamie Roberts, Mike Gibson, Robbie Henshaw, Gordon Darcy, Walter Little, as you said, all unbelievable in their own right. And when you're sitting in this seat and you're trying to marry that with these international players, with the ones that we love from back home, as I said, Devet Barry, Peter Muller, Fernand Tolofia, Manikis Roo, who you picked, Jan Serfontein. He played left wing, inside centre 9 times before moving. He played inside 12 and outside centre 8 times. Andre Esterhuizen as well. We haven't even mentioned again.
Yeah,
could be a legend.
Didn't get enough game time.
Henry LaRue started at fly half and then went to inside centre as well.
Yeah.
like all of these guys really hard and pull at the heartstrings. But for me, I know that I've gone complete Southern Hemisphere with Tim Horan, Jean de Villiers, Nonu,
that's okay.
and Matty Ghetto, but those are my 4.
I think there's just 3 more names before we wrap it up. Talking about South Africans, I'm sure the South African watchers out there will say, what about Michael du Plessis? He was great next to Gerber in the 80s. Great creative player, very aggressive defender as well. And then there were 2 guys in the 50s, Chola Lategan and Ryk van Schoor. We didn't mention either of them last week, really. But they were, I think, on that 1949 series against the All Blacks where we won 4-0, right through to the Grand Slam tour 51-52. They were fantastic. They were like the first choice players. And then last one that I think we never talk about Argentina, but what about Felipe Contepomi?
So good.
He was great at inside.
Yeah.
I know he played flyover as well, but he was a decent inside centre. So I think he was worth a shot.
Nice.
But that's it. That's our
show.
Mount Rushmores. We'd love to hear from you, as always. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, click the little notification button, and then you will get notified every single week of all the new videos that we post. Leave your comments in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. Give us some banter, give us your feedback. Let's keep it civil as far as possible, but we'd love to hear from you. And,
Don't keep it civil. Give us as much as you want. We love the banter. Keep it coming.
We'll see what not Ben gets up to this
Not
week.
Ben is going to make some comment of some description.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Bori Boykies as well.
So next week, Matt, it's the big one. I'm coming with ammo. Next week because we're doing fly off. And long-time watchers of this channel will know who one of those 4 names already is going to be. But I'm looking forward to it.
Sure.
We'll do it again next week. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Give us a like and a subscribe on Facebook. Watch us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We're on all the social media.
All the socials.
We'll do this again next week. Cheers.